They go in 8, 9 times, and we all blame them. We say, what's the matter with these people? They can't stay with the program. No one says maybe the treatment is lousy,
right?
Which it is, of course. It just won't work.
Did you ever catch yourself watching Celebrity Rehab or Intervention? I know I did, and they used to piss me off. I used to be yelling at the TV about how absurd and silly those programs were, and it turns out that I was right. Both programs were canceled and not due to poor ratings. In fact, the truth as to why they got canceled is far darker, and we will explore that later on in this episode as we discuss, are rehabs worth the exorbitant costs? Rehab facilities claim 40 to 60% success rates. Now, often on their website, right on the first page, they will also say that addiction is a complex disease that frequently requires more than one trip for success. A reasonable person looking at those figures, I think it would be safe to assume that 2 trips to rehab should basically take care of the addiction. And that sounds reasonable. However, I've done some digging and I thought 40 to 60% success rates sounded a little bit higher than what I was trained in my ACSW course. And as it turns out, I was right again. In fact, 43% of people attending inpatient rehab don't even make it through the program. Of the ones that do, they don't hold on for very long. In fact, I've got the statistics for how many people remain sober for longer than 1 year following treatment. Spoiler alert, it's not very good. Not to be the bearer of bad news, but I have the statistics right here in front of me. So let's have a look-see, shall we? Now remember, we're looking at how many people following treatment were still sober 366 days later. Marijuana, 50%. Stimulants such as cocaine and meth, 20 to 30%. That's not terrible. Opiates such as heroin and fentanyl, 9%. I don't know where they get off saying that 40 to 60% of people is their success rate. When you average those numbers, that means that only 17.1% of people achieve sobriety for longer than 1 year following treatment. The rehab industry is a $25 billion with a B dollar industry every year, and we expect them to fudge their numbers and make exaggerated claims a little bit. The extent to which they are doing this, however, is not only unethical, immoral, and false advertising, but I would argue it is verging on criminal. They are selling false hopes to desperate people and making claims like, if you don't send your loved one to our facility, it could mean that they will die.
He's either gonna die or end up in jail.
Parents, your kids will not stop using drugs on their own. That is why you need daylight detox and recovery.
And other ones, guaranteeing sobriety.
At Cliffside Malibu, our treatment program is so successful, we guarantee it.
This is absurd and horrifying. Rehabs can cost anywhere between $6,000 and $80,000 per month, and that is prior to including the $1,000 to $3,000 a day detox and travel expenses. That means that if you want to send your loved one to an inpatient rehab facility, you are looking at a bare minimum of $30,000. For that price, you would at least like to see some evidence-based treatment, no? So what are you paying for? What are you paying $30,000 for if not for quality treatment? What you're paying for is a luxury day spa. When rehabs are this competitive, they don't spend their money on getting people better because then they would lose customers. What they do is they spend their money on amenities like pool tables, video games, quality food, pools, saunas, and they make people want to come back. It is like a vacation or a resort.
Right? I think it's just cool. Very nice, guys. Very nice. Thank you. This is a single room, okay? The cost is $73,000 a month. And this is what it is.
It's completely ass backwards, and it really needs to be addressed. Because they couldn't just tell you that you could get a better treatment in a church basement by attending an NA meeting, now could they?
In order to justify the huge charges from $30,000 to $90,000 a month for rehab, they couldn't very well just say, we're going to give you the same thing you can get for free in a church basement. And they were in competition with each other. So they became like spas, as they are today. They just added things that they could say was part of their program without any evidence whatsoever that any of these things did anything.
No, that wouldn't bring in the dollars, that wouldn't bring in the clients. So rather than offering quality treatment that works, they offer amenities that keep people coming back, especially those who are paying with insurance or not paying themselves. But let's get back to why celebrity rehab and intervention got canceled, because this is going to be kind of important. The thing is, of the celebrities on celebrity rehab, 25% are no longer with us today. So 25% of the people not relapsed, 25% of the people on that show are now dead. Intervention doesn't have much better numbers, 10% are now dead. But with celebrity rehab, I looked into it. Do you know how many of those celebrities are clean today? Are you ready for this one? 1. Hold on, wait for who it is. The only celebrity that is still sober today off of that show is the host, Dr. Drew. That means 0% of the people on that show succeeded in getting sober. I would very much like to hear that intervention had better results. I highly doubt it, but I couldn't find the numbers, and there's probably a reason for that. So I guess the question is, are regular traditional rehabs any better than those celebrity shows? Well, in my humble opinion, no. For things such as alcoholics, opiate addicts, and stimulants like cocaine or meth, the numbers aren't much better. It only increases their success statistics when you include things like marijuana and mushrooms and benzos and burnout and things like that. You see, there's a reason that rehabs are not as good as you think they are. And it comes from the fact that when you send someone addicted to hard drugs to rehab against their will, or if you persuade them before they're ready, what happens is their tolerances, they go down. So where they're used to doing massive amounts of drugs and getting little effect after years of addiction, what happens when they get out of rehab is they do a little bit of drugs, they end up dying because they have no tolerance. And not to mention, they will do it in secret because they're ashamed that they're relapsing, often because they're going for somebody else. It's just not a good thing to do, is send someone to rehab when they're not ready to go. In fact, I'm gonna let you in on just something that I feel you need to know, and that is, a lot of times, as a drug addict, we will agree to go to treatment as like a manipulation or a bargaining chip to get let back in the house, or to get an inheritance, or for whatever, put X in here that you want us to do, we will agree to go to treatment for that reason. But in the back of our minds, no, scratch that, right in the very front of our minds, we know that our drugs are wearing off. They are not as potent as they once were. They call it chasing the dragon. You probably have heard of this. That's when you're looking at getting high, you're always trying to find that first high. Well, when you go to rehab and you're clean for 3 weeks and then you get out, you basically are able to catch the dragon, and it's like you're getting high for the first time. Only you've been an addict for X amount of years, so you think you're Superman, and you naturally cut back the drugs you do, but you don't realize how severely you need to cut back your drugs. For instance, when I got out of jail, which is essentially the same thing, I was excited to use drugs again because I knew that I was going to get really, really high. I barely touched anything, and I think the first 3 times after getting out of jail, I overdosed. Luckily, my girlfriend was there and she Narcaned me, or EMS was there, or I think someone found me in a bathroom in a gas station one time. The bottom line is, my tolerance was down, and even as educated as I am on that, I still managed to overdose 3 or 4 times. I don't even remember how many, but it's a serious problem for people when they get out of rehab. And it is very important that everyone understands that. And that you don't buy into the false narrative that rehab is the be-all end-all that's going to save your life. Because when the gloves come off and everything's on the table, the fact of the matter is, your child is 40 times more likely to die in the first 2 weeks after rehab than any other time in their life. And with the success rates for those hard drugs versus the death rates, your child will be more likely to die as a result of going to rehab than they are to recover. Let that sink in. Sending your loved one to rehab is, statistically speaking, more likely to kill them than to get them better. And I know you don't want to believe this, and everyone will tell you differently.
I should know. I was an addict for 10 years. Now I'm not.
On commercials or on TV, in politicians and the treatment centers, but if you do a little research yourself, crunch the numbers, or maybe talk to an addiction counselor that doesn't work in a rehab facility, the answer is not inpatient treatment for hard drugs, period. So, is rehab worth the exorbitant costs? Short answer, no. Long answer, there are times rehab is helpful. I'd have to do a whole nother video on to whom it is helpful for, but for all intents and purposes, the takeaway I would like from this video to be is that if your loved one is suffering from heroin, fentanyl, cocaine, crystal meth, crack, alcohol, inpatient treatment is more likely to kill them than to help them. I will make one disclaimer that a detox is not a horrible idea for alcohol and for benzodiazepines, because those are very serious withdrawals and relapse is unlikely to kill them. But overall, it's probably just going to be a waste of money. You're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars and you are going to be pissed off when it doesn't work. So keep your money and do almost literally anything besides sending them to treatment. I would suggest going on vacation or just do something for yourself. Heck, flush the money down the toilet. At least you won't be contributing to their death or more likelihood of their death. Does that mean there's no hope? No, it doesn't mean there's no hope. There's medication-assisted treatment, which I would call the true gold standard for recovery. There is, however, a lot of pros and cons that you would need to weigh before considering this. And if you want to see what those are, just hit in the comments below and I will make a video specifically for that. Other options include NA or AA.
I guess AA is the most affordable, right?
12-step programs are free.
You would say.
They are free.
Yes.
And they're all over.
Because there are abstinence-based non-12-step programs. So Smart Recovery is an abstinence-based non-12-step free self-help group. So that exists. Moderation Management is a self-help free group for people who are trying to control their drinking. There's Women for Sobriety. There's SOS, which is Secular Organization for Sobriety. There are a lot of self-help groups to help you if you want free help.
Harm reduction, while not technically a treatment, does wonders for saving lives. Safe spaces, clean needles, Narcan, all three of these things save lives and the benefits can't be overstated. You could also get an addiction counselor, a one-on-one consultation. While those vary in cost and effectiveness, they are much better than an inpatient treatment facility. Predatory rehabs prey on desperate families, selling them hope and producing body bags. Don't fall for it, and if you're considering mortgaging your house or draining your savings to send someone to rehab, I strongly urge you to think twice. Thanks for tuning in today, and I left you with a few interesting conversations I was having with ChatGPT and some suggestions that they were making. Have a great day.